G'day, it's Shane here again from Lonely Grape TV, and thank you for joining me at my bar. But more importantly, thank you for helping me bring McLaren Vale wine to the world. Now, for those that tuned into the first video of this two-part series of my little experiment, you'll know that I'm here tasting wines that have been open but with the screw cap on for approximately 7 days. Wines that have only been in the bottle now for about 3 weeks, so I wanted to see what they looked like a couple of days after their initial opening, and now 7 days in total after that opening. So this is the J&J Vineyards 2009 McLaren Vale Shiraz, and let's do the winky thing. It's taking a few swirls to open up. Excuse me. So there's the cherry aromas that I got before. It's interesting, the cherry aromas have modified to be less and less dominant over the 7 days. There's some plumminess coming through, a bit of the spiciness that you expect from Shiraz. But from smelling it, certainly looking forward to tasting it. So some really nice fruit there, not quite as evident as before, and the oak coming through and the tannins, the grape tannins, the oak tannins there are certainly more measured between that and the actual fruit characters. I thought it was a bit tannic to start with, and I did think when opening this wine originally that it had a 10 or 15 year life. What I suspect by doing this experiment is that it certainly does have at least a 10 year life. Having that wine open, sure the cap's been on, but having that wine open and having some oxygen being with the wine has certainly made a difference, with all the components coming together nicely and not one overpowering the other, whereas before I thought, as an example, the cherry aromas and flavours certainly overpowered the rest, and that the tannins were just a tad, not by much, but just a tad overpowering. Now certainly come together. So yeah, certainly recommend this as a 10 year style wine. Yeah, certainly not the tannins that I was getting on the cheeks and the mouth. Certainly pick it up on the tongue, not so much on the cheeks. It's a very nice wine, and I think good to drink now. Certainly no problems with drinking it now, but I think that one is going to only improve with time in the bottle if you can leave it alone. So the second one is the 2009 McLaren Vale Shiraz Cabernet Sauvignon. So this wine is the same Shiraz as the wine in the 100% Shiraz bottle, and it's got about 20% McLaren Vale Cabernet added to it as well. good swirl to make sure I'm getting the right aromas coming through, giving it as much chance as possible. Now here the excuse me, here the plumminess is there, that little bit of cherry coming through as you would expect, as you know from the Shiraz, the previous wine. But there's almost like a lolly sweetness coming through. Now I know you can't smell sweet, but that's what it's like. It smells like some sweeter lollies. Maybe some sweet black fruits. Probably blackberries if I think of my youth picking blackberries. Not too many used to go in the bucket for the family, a lot used to be eaten by me. It's really come together nicely, so I'm interested really to try this now. It's interesting how much effect the 20% Cabernet's had here. The oak that was in before has certainly blown off a bit, and again, the same as the Shiraz, the oak and the wood flavours have certainly melded together a lot more to come together. So again, I think this wine's a bit of a keeper, because that is drinking lovely. And I think if you do like wines that have been around for a couple of years, other than just fruit bombs, then I think these two wines would certainly go very nicely. Now my understanding is, even though they both haven't been released, they're looking at about $19.90 a bottle. But that's really interesting. There's, well, I'll try it again. Yeah, the cherry flavours, there's not much of that left in this one. There's a bit of spicy plums, as you would expect, but there's actually quite a lot of black fruits coming through. And on the very first tasting that I tried when it was first opened, and I tried it about an hour after the cap was taken off, I certainly got a little bit of capsicum vegetative flavours. Certainly not there now. This is coming together nicely, and the Cabernet has done really well in terms of making this a more complex wine. And there's certainly no problems in having it in this condition for those 7 days, as I suggested. So it's been a rather interesting little experiment here. So for me, what have I got from this experiment? First of all, both of these wines showed up that they're very different from an hour after opening to 2.5 days, say from the opening, and then to 7 days. The thing for me was that they lasted, and they certainly showed more integration as they went. Even though it's a wonderful drinking wine now, a lot of upfront fruit character with some quite obvious oak, though not overpowering, but it is obvious, to now that everything melding in quite nicely together, and certainly worth the time if you can afford to, or keep your hands off it basically, if you get it into your cellar or whatever way you keep your wines. So, J&J Vineyards McLaren Vale, certainly one to look out for. They've got a relatively small patch of dirt, but doing some good things. So that's all we have time for from Wine and Grape TV today. I hope you enjoyed the experiment. I certainly got a lot out of the experiment, and I suppose in one respect it's a way to see how the wines age over 7 days instead of waiting 10 years, and probably too long between video tapings for that. So it was a good one for me. I hope it was a good one for you. Have a great week. More importantly, have a safe week. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.